All right, so we are at the end, the official
Yeah,
end of this season.
official,
Um,
official.
yeah, and we're here to just talk about kind of the last, I guess, three games. So,
hmm
so we've got Oregon, Indiana, we've got Ole Miss, Miami, and then we've got Indiana, Miami. And then we'll just kind of wrap up with our general thoughts about
Yeah,
thoughts and feelings. Um, let's start with Oregon, Indiana. What were some of your thoughts about that game?
I mean, looking at that final score, uh, I think people, and I was one of them, thought, hey, Oregon's good.
Yeah,
We'll give them a run for the money. And then just Indiana
pummeled,
dominated.
just pummeled.
And I think at that point after that game, it's like, okay, Indiana's probably going to win the whole
Yeah.
thing. Like they looked pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed with Oregon, it's similar to cheering for BYU as a BYU fan, is they had a hard time putting complete games together. I think they did that with Texas Tech, and it's because they had two sides of the ball. Texas Tech only had one,
hmm
but like with James Madison, I feel like Oregon was like, what? I mean, like it's kind of like they come out strong, but they run out of steam, or they just get
Yeah,
cocky, or something happened. Oregon and Texas Tech, well, I'll give Texas Tech credit. The first half of that game was very close.
yeah.
So I think the second half of that game, Oregon showed up and Texas Tech didn't. So that
hmm
just was because what I'm trying to make sense of is like with these blowouts by Indiana, what does it mean for the teams that they played? Like,
hmm
are they good or bad, or is it just Indiana just dominates and shows up and plays against the team they play? And it doesn't really matter what their pedigree is, they just win. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But the reason I'm questioning is because the Miami game that we'll talk about in a minute, I was like, So
yeah,
so if they were just kind of getting better and better and better, just dominating throughout, I would have been like, all right, it's just that it's just them getting better.
yeah.
But this Oregon game, it just felt like another version of Indiana. I'll give Oregon credit. They scored some points, but also Indiana racked up those points. I mean, I think those 22 came towards the end when it was like second stringers in, and they're like,
Right.
yeah. So that score really is almost worse than Alabama. But didn't Oregon play out Indiana? Yeah, they played Indiana in
Earlier, and it
Oregon,
was by 10. Like,
but it
so I
was
think that's
tight
why
mostly.
people were
Yeah,
kind of like, oh,
right.
but it was at Oregon,
Yes.
so home field. But it was 35-7 at halftime.
Yeah.
So I think even at half, we're kind of like, all
That's
right.
that's about what Alabama had. So is this going to get worse? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I think Oregon, and it's hard to know if they were facing injuries too. I think a lot of these teams were, and I think also Indiana just had the depth and the grit to keep
Mhm.
going. But anyway, so yeah, I was impressed with Indiana, but similar to you, I was like, all right, well, I guess we know who the national championship is
Yeah.
goes to. But
Especially when you look at the other side where
yeah,
you had Ole Miss who is missing their head coach. So credit to them for going
yes,
as deep as they did with the
yes,
turmoil and,
yes.
and everything else going on. And then you had Miami who almost missed the whole
The
thing.
whole thing. Yeah.
And then they end up winning. And this was a good game, like,
Really good
down to
game.
the wire and everything. And I think getting an SEC team to lose, like the SEC had five teams,
Five
the most,
teams.
almost half of the field, and they had one team in the semis and no teams in the championship. It's like, I mean,
The narrative has to change.
it has to, like the fact that people are like, no, we need five. It's like you got honestly cap it at three. Like,
Yeah.
or I mean, three. If it was a 2014 playoff, it'd be like, yeah, cap at four or something like
Or
that.
yeah, somewhere in
But
there.
with 12, it's like, I mean, cap it at three because
Well,
it's
five
just
was
nuts.
it's unfair. I mean, you take a look at like, okay, so what we don't know, and we'll talk about the narratives of all the big Power Four conferences because I think it's frustrating. Because
hmm
I mean, okay, maybe we'll go there now. But the Big 12, they almost had a full collapse until honestly, with the whole Pac-12 collapse. I mean, they're like we were
Yeah.
the ones that were losing people, and then BYU had just come in. I feel like it's a bit like when I worked at George Washington University and I moved across the country, and 6 months later, all my whole team quit, and I was like, what? I was like, what did I just do? Ended up being the best thing for my career. But like, it's one of those things where I'm sure a lot of the p teams left in the Big 12 were like, wait, what? And so I feel like Arizona State, that was a huge get for the conference.
Hmm.
Utah
Oh
coming
yeah.
over, even though they hated it. But I feel like what's hard about this conference is it feels eclectic to those that because it kind of was,
Hmm.
in that moment. But these are all gritty teams that have something to prove because they were
Yeah.
kind of the orphan children that were left out of the
Yeah.
like the Big Ten and the SEC. And so what I think I've realized with this, CFP playoff is it matters if you have a story you're trying to prove wrong.
Hmm.
You've got Indiana, you've got, like you said, Ole Miss, and you've got Miami, who all three of those were like, we have something to prove, and our team
Right.
is rallied around that. Like that matters in playoff.
Yeah.
And you would think with the SEC, I think they kind of rested on their laurels of like, well, we're already good. Of
We're
course,
the
we're going to beat
SEC.
these teams. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding? And it's like, and again, I give credit to Ole Miss. They had something to prove, a lot of things to prove, despite being in the SEC. So, anyway, so I think that's where I'm like, there's just this view of the Big 12 and the ACC now, even though ACC has some fairly recent
Miami helped them
champions,
out a lot.
a
Miami going to the
lot,
championship game helped the ACC like tons.
tons, tons with
It's
recruiting.
still weird that the Duke, who won the ACC, didn't get in. Like, and I get why. I'm not saying they should
Yes.
have been
Yeah.
in, but it's like,
Well, they changed that now.
yeah,
With
they did change it.
yeah.
So Duke would be in and might bump Miami. But like, I, and this is where it gets tricky. It's like, obviously, Miami did great, but Notre Dame could have done good. Honestly, BYU could have done good.
Mhm.
Like, there's probably a handful of teams that still would have done good in the
Maybe won the
playoff.
first or second round, which is
Right.
most teams, right? So yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So it's just you're never going to get it 100% right,
Mm-mm.
but like if Miami would have lost the first round, oh
Oh.
man, it would have been crazy and Notre Dame would have been crying even more.
Mhm.
And then it's like, oh, they won the next round and the next round. And so it actually silenced anyone. Like Notre Dame couldn't complain, other people couldn't complain. It's like, well, it's a
They
good decision.
deserved
Like
it. Mhm.
technically, I think you can make the argument. It's like, well, we got to have some standard of like they got in instead of their conference champion. That's still weird. Was it the right call? Yeah, it was,
It
but
was the right
it's
call.
still weird like that
Well, and I
that
think
happened.
like you said, I mean, this goes to the Florida State rule. Like, I think sometimes the CFP playoff committee is choosing teams they think can play off now. And
Right.
that kind of defeats the purpose of a whole season record, which
Right.
also keeps people out, even if they are a better team
Hmm.
towards the end of the season. So, I think what needs to be calibrated is the criteria for a championship game, for
To
a
get into the
conference
playoff.
championship game for a
Right.
conference. So, like,
Oh yeah.
because if that had changed, then Miami would be in. They might. It sounds like they probably would have won, and they would be in this
Yeah.
thing, no problem, right?
Just
So, yeah,
weird tiebreakers and
yeah,
well, and that's a byproduct of the conferences being so huge
yeah,
that you get these weird tiebreakers. Like
yeah.
BYU is a victim of
Yep,
it
last
last
year.
year.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's like that anyway, the
Yeah.
whole system is,
Yeah,
you know,
messed up, but
messed up. But
yeah.
anyway, but yeah, Miami credit to them beating Ole Miss. And
That
then
yeah, that was a
that
great game.
that final game, Indiana over Miami. I mean, there's
Oh,
a couple points where I'm like, Miami might
we might
pull this
take
out.
it. Yeah.
Like,
Well, to be honest, that last drive, I mean, they had the Hail Mary, which, I think Miami's pretty upset about. Or was it that? No, no, it wasn't that. That was the Old Miss game, the Hail Mary, where it was kind of like a fight in the end zone. But but the end of this game, it's like if it wasn't in an interception, they were going for the actual win, and there was an interception, and that's what killed the game. But they could have won because it wasn't
oh
one of
yeah,
those like you score and you tie. It was you score and you win.
right.
So had they scored and actually went to the guy instead of went to the interception, they would have won. Like, and I have to give them a lot of credit. That's the closest outside of maybe Ohio State in the conference championship. That's the closest game I think I've seen Indiana play in.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
throughout
true.
this whole, yeah, pretty much everything else was just a blowout. So, it made it a great game to watch because I think that was another thing too. A lot of the fans were like, "Ugh," I mean, even though I'm cheering for Indiana, watching a blowout game is not fun. Like that's why
Yeah,
watching Miami throughout this whole series has been so much fun. It was close every time,
right.
and they kind of showed up in different places and they won. Um, so I really appreciate, and I don't think it was intentional, but it was a close game that literally anybody could have won. So.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a good championship game. But yeah, you look at the amount, you have people like, oh, these blowouts with the James Madison, Tulane, and then you look at the brackets like, oh, Alabama got blown out. Texas Tech technically got blown out.
Hmm.
Um, there are a number of other
Yeah.
blowouts. Oregon got blown out.
Or yeah, they
So
did.
it's like
They also blew Texas Tech
they
out, but
also
they
blew
also
Texas
got blown out.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know, like if every single game is a blowout, it's like okay, let's tweak it. But you're going to fight the nature of things. Like even professionals in baseball, it's like now they play whole series, but like you'll have a complete blowout game, one game, and the next game you lose.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even pros, like
Yeah.
you have blowouts. It just
Well, it's a
happens. So
version of like the MLB theory where it's like you play the team three times in the best out of three kind of thing,
right,
Yeah. Just keep going
which
though.
is nice that baseball can do that, and just
Yeah.
football you just can't.
You
It's
can't
too
do that.
grueling. But yeah,
Although, let's be
overall,
honest, with the like teams playing each other over and over again, we had versions of that. I mean, like
yeah.
the re like look at even Old Miss's Pathway. They already played Tulane, so this is a repeat. They had already played Georgia, that was a repeat. So their first like in the CFP playoff, their first outside of a replay was Miami, and so
Mhm.
but there's a lot of repeat games. And that's where
Yeah,
I'm just like, I feel like I'm like, just change the seating then. I mean, not seating, but change the arrangement
yeah.
because
So one maybe unpopular opinion here. So overall, good with Indiana being
yeah.
champion, undefeated. In the playoff, they beat teams, they dominated teams, and that's good.
Mhm.
But if you just go back and look at their schedule again, like the preseason, they played nobody. Uh,
Right. Well, nobody played. Everybody
Illinois,
plays
like
nobody. Yeah, yeah.
Oregon, and Ohio State,
Hmm.
and Ohio State was in the championship, were the only really like tough games that they had or ranked like when you look at final
Yeah.
rankings, those are the only two except excluding the playoff because like I said they proved themselves. So it's like okay cool they're good but it's like when you play Kennesaw State and Indiana State and then you're playing UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue all in a row, it's just like you get those blowouts all the time and it's I
Well,
don't know like
go ahead.
no, go ahead. You're good.
Here's a question for that though. Okay, because I see where you're going with that, and I mostly agree. But could it also be said that that was wise for that team's like progressional, confidence?
Oh,
Like
totally.
because they don't probably have a ton of injuries in those games because they're not putting everything out there.
Right.
They can rotate a lot of people in. They keep healthy. They also start, I mean, it's kind of like when BYU had Barrett. It's like, we just need to like practice this guy. Every game
Hmm.
was a new thing that they were practicing. So it's like, it's kind of team growth management. And maybe if that's what the Big Ten wants to be, where it's like, we're going to have some real elite teams and then everybody else is just going to be the B team that they beat up on all
Hmm.
season long so they can prep them for the final. I mean, if
Right.
that's the theory, it seemed to work well for the Big Ten this year. I do see like versions of that happening now with the Big 12 schedules for next year, where I was like, okay, interesting. Like
Yeah.
not a ton
Oh,
of like hard games.
Texas Tech has the easy path. But what's crazy about it is like we talked about this year with Ohio State last year. Like it
Mhm.
was the same thing. They didn't really play anyone.
Yeah.
And so there's always talk of this two super conferences. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, yeah, but they're not except for the top three or four teams they're not a super conference. Like the
Yeah, a
middle to
super conference would be
bottom,
all the elite teams.
right?
None of the other. Yeah.
So if you
Mhm.
want a super conference, you'd almost take the top from each
Yeah.
conference and be like, now we got something. But even then, you're going to have ebbs and flows of
Well, that's
these
the thing.
teams.
The parity makes this an in like you cannot gauge what the top teams are going to be. You can gauge who the blue bloods and the money where the money is. And if
Mhm.
that's what makes a top team these days, then maybe you could create a conference around that. But I also think too, I'm actually in love with the fact that the parity has existed to this extent. And a lot of people will say with Indiana, like, "Oh, this is going to be a cute story," and I was like,
Yeah, no.
I'm like, that's what they said about the New England Patriots, and then they had a whole dynasty that was created. Same with Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm like, I don't see Kirk Cignetti being like, that was fun, guys. Okay, now we
Yeah, I'm
can just
out.
coast. No,
Yeah,
he's a Nick Saban like protege. He wants to be dominant. So
and I like the Indiana story because it gives
yes,
other teams hope. And even the Final Four, it's like Oregon. I don't know
Mhm.
if they've never won, but they've been around, but they've never, at least in the last 20, 30 years,
They're always
they
close,
haven't
but never.
won,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you got Miami, who okay, they've won in the 2000s. I think it was early 2000s, but
Like late
they've kind of
90s,
they
2000s.
kind of got down, and
Mhm.
now they're coming back. And then Indiana, who's never been there. I
Yeah,
don't even know if they've ever been to a Rose Bowl. So in that same year, they've been to a Rose Bowl, won the Rose
yeah.
Bowl, and won the national championship. So I like that it's like, oh, it's not just the Alabama, the Georgia, the Clemson, which Clemson's been down
Yeah,
for a bit here, but
yeah,
the Ohio State, like,
yeah.
yeah, Ohio State was in playoff, but they didn't make it, all the way there. So it's nice, and I think it's good for the sport,
I
honestly,
agree. Well, and I
to
think
have
what
that.
it challenges this idea of a full roster of 4 and 5 stars and the money spent on that is going to buy you a championship. I don't think so
Hmm.
anymore. I really love Kirk Cignetti's philosophy on this, where he's like, I want proven talent. I don't want
Yeah,
projected talent. So I'm
right,
taking from the G Leagues or, whatever else. I'm taking from the group of five. And if they've
right,
done well there, then they're going to play well. It's he's not willing to risk the investment because he probably was like, listen, I only have so much money, so I want to get
right.
people that I know can play. But like, I think they only had 7 4 stars. Everybody else was three or less. And I was like,
Yeah,
that to me is another like amazing storyline out of this, which is like you don't have to have deep pockets anymore to like if it's just a crazy accumulation of massive talent. Before that used to be like recruiting class puts you at the top in a preseason poll. And I think it's still informing that, which I'm like over time I hope that we kind of figure that out.
hmm,
But I think the parity is what's causing confusion for all those blue bloods that are like, listen, we're spending millions of dollars on these top
hmm,
rosters, and why can't we get it together? It's like, well, because it's hard. You can have all these top talents, but listen, you're going to get a lot of personality with those
yeah,
talents and a lot of ego saying I need to play all the time with all
yeah,
of, I mean, so unless they know how to work together and do it like have a team spirit and be able to sacrifice for the team and do all that stuff, which I think a lot of the times these top rosters and these top recruiting classes don't always have that. So I really do like what Kalani Sitake's doing. I like what other
hmm,
people around the country is doing, where they're building a culture. I think even Texas Tech is doing this to some extent, where it's like, I mean, they have money, so maybe not, but like
yeah,
I think what they're trying to do is plug in the pieces to like a team culture that's being created. That's a
right.
hard thing to do with the fact that you lose players every year. I mean, but I think players are sticking around longer now. So,
Agreed. And the transfer portal is just this, like, will you ever come out? And you mentioned it a little bit with
yeah.
BYU. I think BYU kind of has this, they've been doing this blueprint that Indiana did for a while,
Mhm.
mainly
Yeah.
because they had to. Like,
Yeah.
we have to develop talent,
More with less. Yeah.
more
Yeah.
with less.
Hmm.
But now, okay, look, they're getting some money, but even with that money, like, you look at BYU, first off, they lost their defensive coordinator and like two players left. Like,
Right.
and so they kept, even with losing a great defensive coordinator,
They kept their
players
analysts
hung
too.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all hung around. Not all, most of them hung around, and then so you get that, like, oh, we've been here a while, and then they're using the transfer portal
The
more
plug and
more as
play.
a, we
Hmm.
need a plug, we need this, we
We
need
need a
that.
backup. We more of this. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that continuity, that, like, hey, we've been around the block.
Mhm.
It's funny because you'll, for years it's always been like, oh well, the return missionaries at BYU is like, well, they're grown men, they're older,
Yeah.
and it's like, kind of like, well, that's what Indiana kind of did. They
Yeah.
went and got the older, more
Yep.
developed, more
Yeah.
mature
Hmm.
guys, and it's like, that's not new. It's just they did it kind of on another level.
Well, if you had good talent, it would leave early. I think also Kirk Herbstreit was the one that was saying he's like another huge lesson is like to do well in the NFL, true like real experience, many years of experience in college
Oh
football
yeah,
is actually an indicator of success. So
helps.
I think
Yeah,
that's why you've got LJ Martin coming back to BYU and all
right.
these others to be like, well, they're trying to up their draft stock, which is one part of it, but also it's like, listen, the more experience I can get here, the more I can transfer it over. And
And
so yeah.
also on that, they can make, unless you're getting drafted like first round top, you can make more money in college still than you
Yeah, you
can as
can.
a NFL rookie. So might as well
Yeah.
come back and then
Yeah.
enjoy it and get a
I cannot
degree, and
yeah, I
yeah.
cannot wait for the first PhD college football
Ha!
graduate because I'm like some of these guys I was like okay we're like the Trinidad Chambliss story which okay, again, he was sick one year, whatever. I was like, some of these guys are really pushing the limits on like, okay, so what this
Yeah.
would be your seventh year. Like, I don't know.
Well, the
And
other
so,
part,
yeah.
then you got Carson Beck, who's like, I don't take any classes. And I'm like, well, that seems odd
So
that
like,
you're a
like, what are you
college
taking? A bunch of PE
student
classes?
athlete. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember back when Matt Leinart was at USC seeing an interview, and
Yeah.
he's like, I have one class. And to his credit, he graduated, but he's like, I have one dance class, and that's it. And I was like,
Shouldn't there be a limit? Like, you
well,
can't be
there
a
should
part-time
be.
student. Yeah. Like,
Well,
yeah,
you have to take,
at
and
least,
I'm not even saying full load, but it's
yeah.
like you got to be like
12
legit
credits.
doing
Come on.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. And save your easy classes. We're all for that. Like, I get it.
Yeah,
Don't take
that's
like,
fine.
like advanced history or whatever it is or calculus. But like, but that's the thing too. I was like, if there's no credit limit of what they have to take to be considered a student athlete, like then what's the difference of them basically being like, I'm auditing this year?
Yeah,
Which means I'm not going to go to class.
right.
And then I'm just going to focus on playing because this is my season type of a thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
Um, should we look at, we
Yeah.
don't have to go through it, but just the final rankings, like things that
Yeah.
pop out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying, there were a couple things I wanted to know. Oh, okay. Actually, it's the two that affect BYU. So BYU finished 11th, which is like, okay, that's fine, whatever. The things that bother me is one, Notre Dame's still ahead of them, even though Notre Dame opted out of a bowl game and cried and kept crying and defending it and everything. It's like, they, yeah, would Notre Dame beat BYU? Maybe, probably,
Maybe. But
but
you'd have to play them
like
off to
also, I
see.
think
Yeah.
you should give teams credit who went and played a bowl game and beat that opponent. And like BYU now has another like we beat Georgia
A
Tech, who
notch.
is good all year.
Yeah.
And what did Notre Dame do? They sat at home. Again, this is another example of Notre Dame sitting at home during conference championship week, during bowl season, and
Yeah.
getting credit, you know.
Yeah.
So that was annoying. And honestly, Alabama, I was like, I think what I learned through the bowl season and college football playoff is like they probably shouldn't have been. I know they beat Oklahoma first, but that was SEC against SEC.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting credit for that win, but also they got killed the next game. So, and they have four losses. It's the next four loss team is ranked 17. So the amount of just like grace Alabama gets, I mean, they're still riding Nick Saban's coattails here
Yeah.
of like, oh, we're
We've grown
Alabama.
our coattails.
And I don't
Yeah.
know, I think you and I talked about this, but people put out something online about the
Mhm.
revenue and what is spent by each CFP team.
It's insane.
Alabama top of the list, which is funny why people get upset, not upset, but like Texas Tech, they're just buying their roster. It's like,
They're
look
nowhere
at
close to
they're not
$93
even
million,
top
dollars, by the
10.
way. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like I think they point that out to be like, hey, they can't do it. They're new to doing this. We've been doing this forever. Like they can't do it too. So it that
Well,
one,
Alabama also probably got not just the they beat Oklahoma, but like, oh, Indiana blew everybody out. So we'll kind of cancel that out. Like if
give you
Oregon
some,
hadn't have gotten blown out and Miami didn't, then that I think would have been a but they're like, oh, okay, so it's just Indiana's really good. It's not that
yeah,
Alabama's bad, it's Indiana's really good. I'm like, I don't know.
yeah. Well, I could see someone being like, well, Notre Dame lost to Miami and Miami was in the championship game. So it's just funny how the narrative will
Yeah,
change it
yeah,
from like, well, we should have been in to, well, okay, Miami's good. But
yeah.
I don't, those are the only two that really
Can you
kind of,
show the rankings? Because I don't have them up. Maybe
uh,
because then I can take a look because I'd have to take a minute to go find it. But yeah, I do. I think was BYU 13 still, or was it
they
14?
were 11, which is like,
11.
okay,
Okay.
but with their season, the only two losses to Texas Tech. And I get they got blown out, but then they beat Georgia Tech, who was competing in the ACC.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
probably should be a top 10. And
Yeah.
it's really just I you could even make an argument Texas A&M, like look at
Should
their
have been higher.
schedule and
Yeah.
they lost, like maybe shouldn't have been up there, but again, that's kind of the
Well,
SEC
I'm going to give,
bias.
yeah, well, and out of the SEC, I would probably say the respect I have for the SEC in the final, I think to me it's Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Those two actually garnered my
Hmm.
respect. The others were just like, okay, nice try, thanks for playing,
Yeah.
but I'm sure Georgia's above Texas Tech. Oh yeah,
Yep.
or above Texas A&M, which I'm still like, okay, Ole Miss beat them. I don't know that that's is that. I
It's
don't
weird.
know. It is
Yeah.
weird. Again, it goes back to I think there'll always be, at least for the next several years, until they prove otherwise, Georgia and Alabama and all the recent winners, or at least the recent consistent winners, always having a historical bias.
Oh yeah.
And a donor and a money bias, which is like, surely, okay, maybe they were just had who was sick that day or was somebody out, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
one of those like,
Texas Tech
oh,
got that when they lost
yeah,
to Arizona State, and it was kind of like, well, they didn't have their quarterback, so
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's still a loss.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, let's see.
It's
Yeah.
well, what it'll take is okay. Miami got to championship. It'll take the Big 12 needs to win
Oh,
playoff
sorry.
games. If they like Arizona State, it's like, good job, guys. You almost beat Texas. Actually, they should have with a couple weird calls. And then it's like Texas Tech, oh, you didn't really compete. But when you're only getting one team in, and you probably should have gotten two, it's like your 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 whole conference is like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like, and Miami, to their credit, helped the ACC a bunch, but
Mhm.
it's still like, okay, like until Big 12 wins and beats a Big 10 or a SEC school, we're gonna kind of still be in this like, no, we're good too. Like, but
And I think it goes back to the hardest part about this is most given Saturdays, they probably are good. Okay, we'll give it
mhm,
to them. But it doesn't mean that other teams aren't too. As long as
right.
it's a fair narrative where it's like we give most people the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. And that includes those blue blood teams where it's like until proven otherwise. But even when proven otherwise, they're still given the benefit of the doubt. So I'm like, it just goes
Yeah.
back to like the fairness of the assessment of skill and
The
assessment.
criteria is not
Yes.
consistent. Like
Yeah.
there is no criteria because they put eye test,
Yeah.
and eye test is like no, absolutely no eye
Eye
test.
test
You
means
need
bias. I mean, at this point,
metrics.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and remember BYU, the first college football playoff they rankings, they were seven above Notre Dame, and then they went and got blown out by Texas Tech, which didn't help them.
Mm-mm.
But then they dropped to like 12, and it was like,
Yeah. It's
whoa,
pretty
that's
far. It's
like
like
it was
5 spots.
on the road at
Yeah.
Texas, like
Yeah.
it probably like we didn't lose to Florida State that isn't ranked and got blown out with like Alabama, and Alabama's still up there. So it's just yeah,
Well,
that
yeah, because I'm like, even look at the Indiana Alabama score. That was more like a bigger blowout than BYU and Texas Tech. And
right.
yet they didn't like they haven't
They
really
didn't fall.
moved. Nope, not at
Yeah.
all. And so that's what makes this it's hard. I
And
think
yeah,
yeah, coming from a school that's
Alabama
not
got
yeah. Yeah.
oh, let me see. They changed the schedule. Let's because if you're looking at it, it's like, okay, that's a bad loss. Florida State, close
Mm.
loss, bad blowout, bad blowout. So like most of their losses except one
We're pretty
were
bad.
blowouts.
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe,
It's not
yeah,
just
but
losing by little. Yeah.
they weren't losing by a little. Florida State wasn't even ranked then, wasn't
Yeah.
ranked in the season. Um, and then, but they get this like, well, they were good. Well, Georgia's good. And it's like, well, BYU also went to the Big 12 championship game.
So they were
So
good, right?
why are we moving down? Remember that whole thing? It's like
I
everyone
know.
moved down who lost a conference championship except Alabama. They
Hmm.
didn't move down, which is
Well, and even looking at the bowl series, like SEC did not show up for the bowl
right.
series. Big 12 did pretty well. Big 10 did well. I mean, I
Yeah,
think, yeah. And given credit where it's due, I know Josh is always like, Big 10, Big 10. I was like, okay, I'm not saying the Big 10 is bad. I think it just goes back to like, why does the Big 10 and the SEC have to be good at the expense of other good
right.
programs?
You
Can't,
could,
I mean, they're all Power Four, yet there's still an internal ranking. And that's just to satisfy the narratives that we keep getting pitched by the media and the sponsorships that are like relevant to it. The ESPN, who like sponsors the SEC,
right,
and Fox News, they're always going to sell those narratives, and nobody else is selling the SEC and the Big 12 narrative. And for all historical bias purposes, we can look at all these other conferences and be like, okay, I mean, yeah, look, if I weren't in the Big 10, it'd be easy to be like, okay, but as students of the Big 10, or sorry, the Big 12 this year, it's like, well, okay, I'm learning more. Like, and I have to give credit where it's due. I think a lot of these guys were good. And I think what's hard about Texas Tech getting the blowout to Oregon is everyone's like, see?
right,
And I was like, ah, I mean, first of all, they might not have shown up. Who knows? Whatever. And again, give Oregon the credit that's due there. That was a
right,
really good win for them. But I feel like that wasn't the Texas Tech that we played,
right.
what I don't know. But also, it wasn't that far off. from the game we played against Texas Tech, where the
Right.
first half was just like what, a 3-point game, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that makes it hard. And I think that's why I'm trying to be fair in my own assessment of other teams, like, okay, so to say Oregon's bad, no, they're not bad. I think they're inconsistent. Alabama's
Hmm.
inconsistent. Like, and I think it goes back to like BYU for the most part, except for one team, was inconsistent. And I guess
Right.
that's a consistent inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
So the consistency factor, I think for me, is what garners my respect when I look at some of these teams. SEC has been the least consistent, I feel like,
Yeah.
of all the conferences this year, despite the talent they have, which again, it goes back to like they're almost self-destructing, on the inside. So
Well, it's the NIL, I think, is hurting them. And I think
huge, yeah.
it's interesting. Like, yeah, our Big Ten and SEC, obviously, they have the most sway of anything.
Hmm.
But if NIL continues like this, like it's gonna be interesting to see, like, okay, well, all your 4-star, 5 stars that you used to stack up, they want to actually play,
Yeah,
and they're gonna go somewhere that they can play. And it,
did you see the exit in the transfer portal from high quality from Ohio State and like some of these big blue bloods? I mean,
yeah,
so it's it's
yeah.
gonna be
So
hard
it'll
for
be
them.
interesting to see how they handle. And I'm not even saying they're not one of the top two conferences. It's just you're not as far ahead as you
Right.
thought you were,
And
and your
yeah.
bottom is getting worse. Like
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
your tops maybe the t cream of the
There's a
crop, but your
ceiling there.
bottom's also really, really bad. Like, and
Yeah.
that's why that top, hey, that Super League taken was like, if they did the Super League, they'd probably be like, all right, okay, Kentucky,
It would be
okay,
as
Maryland,
consistent as
like,
anybody else. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, and I think also too, we talked about this I think last time, but the teams that are gonna, and this is the Blue Bloods program, is the switch out of coaches and the
mhm.
intolerance. I mean, how many? I mean, I think wasn't it Auburn at one point was paying out 5 different past coach salaries.
Yeah,
Like
something like that.
if they can't be satisfied with mediocre to good, then they're not going to be able to actually build a program. They'll be
Right,
so far in debt that they won't be able to build a program. And I think that's what's happening with these other schools where it's like we're having money and it's like we're fine. I mean, hey, BYU, was it disappointing we didn't make the CFP? But oh my gosh, we went to a championship game. I mean, we went to a conference championship game. That's a huge
right,
win. We didn't win that game, but we've
right.
been getting incrementally better. And so it's going to be interesting to start seeing, the narrative continue to shift with money and spending of money and transfer portal and coaching,
Hmm.
all of that stuff weighing into all these conferences where I really wish the narrative could just change of like, we're all a power four. We're a power four group. Like, do
Yeah,
we have to really start doing internal comparisons to say we're the best internal group of all I mean,
right.
we should all be given a fair shot to the playoff. We should all be, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I am really disappointed that they didn't change the playoff number because
Hmm.
now we know that they kept it at 12. I was at least hoping for 16, if not, I don't know, 24. I don't know. I have my opinions on
Yeah,
that.
24 is a lot, but 16 is good because at least
Then there's
I
no
think
buy.
there's
Yeah.
no bye,
Mhm.
and those like each of those 4 teams, the ones that got the bye, you tell me they wouldn't have loved to have a home game?
Are you
Like
kidding? Yeah, they would have
that, like
loved
Texas
it.
Tech at home, I think is a completely different game
Yes.
than the
At least
neutral
that's
site
been our experience.
was. Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think there's more parity, which is good. It's just the par the bias hasn't caught up to the parity
Yes.
of everything yet.
Mhm.
So we're sitting there where you get the Alabamas, you get the whatever, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we're still in like I mean, I guess I'll compare this to academia. We're still in research phase to figure out what the new
Hmm.
standard will be for like great team structure. Indiana has challenged that, and everybody's like, whoa. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
huge shift from what it used to be. And so I still think we're in like data gathering mode. And so that's what's so hard on the commentary part of this, because we're still having to rely on past statistics, emotional bias, historical bias,
Hmm.
and like eye test and all these things, because there was no other way to judge, and that worked for that era. But
Hmm.
because we're still transitioning and we're seeing so much radical shift, I think there's still not like a qualified set of criteria that we can all be like, okay, that's how we judge.
Use
And
that.
until
Yeah.
like, let's say another 5 years from now, when things stabilize, I hope we'll have enough data to be able to be like, okay, AI, tell us what the what the
Yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
because
What
yeah,
should we do? Well,
yeah,
and there are a lot of metrics out there, but it's
yeah,
just what do you use? What's the criteria? Like, and of
and that's
course the SEC
relative.
is going to be like, use this for because it helps us, and Big Ten
Mhm.
this, and Big 12
Mhm.
this, and
Yeah,
what's funny is in all those strength of schedule and strength
yeah,
of rankings,
yeah,
BYU is consistently like top 10, and then
yeah.
CFP, AP is like, nah,
It doesn't matter for
we're gonna put you
you.
lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this
Um,
year we're gonna have a lower strength of schedule based on except for the Notre Dame game, I think that'll hopefully bump us up. But because I think the Big 12 has been like, all right, Big 10, you have something going here. Let's give our team some cushiness on the way there. Because the gauntlet didn't work. And,
And well,
so yeah.
even then though, like just then I
Mhm.
actually got to go in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at BYU's schedule for next year. Like Arizona, we got
Yeah.
week 2. They were good,
They
and
were good
their
and they will be
quarterback
good.
coming back, so
Yeah.
they will be good. TCU, we blew them out last year, but it's at TCU, and
They're
TCU was
growing.
good. They ended up
Mhm.
ranked. Iowa State, we'll see. They lost their coach, but that's a
I
tough one.
don't think
Notre Dame,
Notre Dame will be
Arizona
good.
State, we're playing them.
Yeah.
Utah will always be a tough game.
Yep.
Baylor, do they bounce back
Yeah, because they
and have a
have
good year?
yeah, DJ.
Um, and
Mhm.
then so yeah, like
It's
I
still
don't
gonna be,
think
it's not gonna be
it's
easy. Yeah.
oh for sure no, and even
Yeah.
Kansas, Cincinnati, it's like, well, what are you guys gonna do? Like, are you gonna be good or are you not?
I mean, you lost
Um,
Brandon, so are you gonna be good? I don't know. We
yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
and I skipped UCF, but and who knows? They could even grow. You
Yeah.
got Scott Frost. It's the second year coming in, so like,
Well, and
does he
I'll be
build?
honest, with like Texas Tech, they're losing quite a few of their defensive, like big
Hmm.
playmakers. I was kind of shocked that the Brandon Scoresby was ranked so high in the portal. I think
Yeah,
there's a lot of naysayers. I'm like, really?
me
Like
too.
I'm still not convinced that's the savior to that team, but
I
I could be proven wrong. I don't know.
I
So
agree on that, and also the Iowa State quarterback back. He went to Penn State, and
they
watching
took
that
like the
BYU
whole
game
team
and stuff,
there.
like I mean, I'm
He
not saying he's bad, but I
no.
was just kind of like, again, maybe you're the best option in the portal, but
Yeah.
or
Well, and what's interesting is it was all the Big 12 quarterbacks that were ranked high. Sam Levitt, Brandon
right.
Scoresby, like
Well,
Beckton, all these other guys, like, okay, so what that
the
was fascinating to me. It's kind of like we're the high level G5 team.
yeah,
But
the Levitt thing's confusing. I've seen
I
things
don't
where
get
they're
that.
like he was kicked off the team, he left the team, he abandoned. Like that whole thing's kind of weird.
Which is
What's
why
going
I'm like,
on?
I think Arizona State's still figuring themselves out, but they always are competitive.
Hmm.
I think by the time we play them, because it's later in the season, right? Or at
Right.
least mid to late,
Yeah,
I think
it's
we'll know. But I thought
yeah.
this is also what happened last year when we were looking at our schedule. We're like, okay, this should be easy. But then it's like, okay, all these teams started to show up, and we were like,
Started.
oh my
Well,
gosh,
and that's
okay.
the tough thing with the portal is like, okay,
Yeah.
who reloaded? Who's good? Like even Utah, okay,
Hmm.
lost their co head coach,
They lost a
lost
lot.
their
Yeah.
offensive coordinator, lost some of their best defensive players. So it's like, do they reload or is this kind of an off year? And
This is
of
the
course, that's a
rebuilding.
rivalry game in Salt Lake, so it's going to be tough. But like, boy, I'd love it if it's a struggle for them and we're bringing back all of our people, and
Yeah.
it's an easier. I would love a blowout of Utah. Just let me relax and
Let
enjoy
me
the
let me
game.
not pace and let me not just like sweat off all of the yeah. Yeah, it'll be an interesting year. I'm actually very excited for next year. The Notre Dame game, and this is where, another invitation to Jared to come in out and go to the game with me. Maybe we could do a
There you
live
go. Like at the
at the like this is how we feel about this. And we just do emoticons all game long.
yeah,
I think, I mean, it goes back to like giving Notre Dame credit. They always have a team that seems worthy of like of caliber. They have a caliber team, like a high caliber team. I think what's always interesting is like again the benefit of the doubt theory. So what I'm
hmm
excited about by playing them is I will then as a fan have a better calibration for how I can how I can actually talk about Notre Dame because I
right,
think what's hard about playing with some of these teams is it's easy, especially in the Big Ten. We almost never play them. Maybe some of our teams play an SEC game and like a preseason, but most of the time with those schools, it's like, okay, so we have to just be objective from afar and say,
right,
okay, I think your schedule, I think you played easy teams, so I don't know if you're good.
right.
What I like about playing Notre Dame, and I wish that we would do some more like high level interconference play, especially at the beginning, is that gives us measures to be able to be
Yeah,
like, okay, okay, so these are good teams. These are teams to watch out for.
right.
But we don't
Uh,
get that until mid-season. So
Notre Dame schedule, someone posted something next year. I guess
I'm glad
they're
that we're one of the
playing.
best. Yeah.
Yeah, they're of like there are three
Yeah.
teams that have winning records. Everyone else had 8 losses or more, and it's
Yeah.
like, and I get that they schedule these years out, and like,
Yeah.
okay, they're playing Wisconsin. Traditionally, Wisconsin's good. They weren't. How were they supposed to know they were going to stink it up?
Yeah.
And like, there's teams like that that oh,
Yeah.
we how are you supposed to know? But it's also like that's the joy of being in a conference a bit. Then you can kind of
Well, you can
you get
calibrate
the
and
ebbs
they
and flows.
I really do wish they would mandate that. I mean, I think was it UMass is another team that's an independent and like Navy or something like that. But it's like,
And
all right, come
and
on,
when
people.
BYU was independent, we wanted to be in a conference.
Yeah.
Like we almost did that for survival's sake to hopefully schedule a tougher schedule. But like
Yeah.
ultimately, I think I even remember saying in the middle of it, I'm like, I go back to Mountain West and dominate Mountain West and be the Boise
Yeah.
State that gets a
Yeah. That gets a
gets an
bid.
invite. Yeah,
Hmm.
gets a bid. Um, but like even during all that independence, I'm like, join a conference, join a conference. So this isn't just like a come on Notre Dame, join a conference. Like I was
I'm
even pushing for it with BYU. Like you got to
as a
get in a
fan.
conference.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Then there's no question. Then your fan base doesn't have to be questioned and your talent doesn't have to be questioned. So,
Right.
anyway, well, it'll
Anyway.
be an interesting season. I know you've got to go,
Well,
but I
yep.
guess we have what, almost 200 days until the next time we do one of these
Yeah.
podcasts.
That'd be a
So,
lot, at least for college football. Yep.
yeah, enjoy the time off.
All right.
Okay, bye.
See you. Bye.